Happy July 1st and to a new fiscal year in higher ed, except for five states who woke up budgetless. My name's Aaron Benz. Welcome to another Bowtie Tuesday. Today, I thought it'd be interesting, fun to go over all of the budget, tuition stories of this past year to see what was talked about and then what actually happened. So, where we find ourselves today is that five states, as you can see here, are still without an official budget or in some kind of continuation budget. Although I do believe actually one of these, Wisconsin, was just passed today that I've got a little more information on. But these are Massachusetts, North Carolina, Oregon, Pennsylvania, and Wisconsin. Very interesting, three of those being swing states where there's naturally a higher political climate going on. So overall, net net, what does it mean? So we're still looking at roughly 130 total billion dollars supporting higher ed today. The total state support as of right now is up 0.8%. So that's a real actually increase. However, the net tuition rate continues to be the struggle, right? Year over year, net tuition is actually minus 3.7%, right? So this is the real tuition dollars that a university collects, as opposed to, let's say, their tuition dollars look to increase, but they give more scholarships or things like that. Net net, what does that mean? It means it's still very tough to be a CFO in higher ed today. You got a little more state support, definitely better than state cuts, but it's certainly a struggle. Now, where I think it's really interesting is to look back over a couple key states I'm going to highlight and kind of the big things that were happening over the past year. So one of them was in California, where there's originally a proposed $646 million, roughly, I believe, 8% of the budget for the CSU and CU systems. That ultimately got revised down to 3%, and then the legislature actually rejected it outright and essentially delayed it or deferred it for 2 more years down the road. So kind of a massive consequential hit that they thought was happening. Net net, at the end of the day, ends up being nothing. They're going to defer it to future years. Texas, in a budget surplus state, where there was more dollars that were returned to taxpayers via tax rebates and real estate and things like that. They were at the same time proposing a $423 million institutional cut to U.S. higher ed. Where did that actually ended up? Nothing got passed, right? They didn't cut anything. However, what they clearly signaled was that looking to next year, they're going to be looking for performance-based budgeting. So Texas is still not a performance-based budget state. We see several states like this. Ohio is an example that I believe is 100% performance-based, meaning how many students are you graduating and matriculating, and that's how we're going to determine how much funding you get, not just based on total student size, because maybe you lose a lot of those students. You're not matriculating them. So very interesting of, again, no cuts actually happen, but then what they're signaling for what's coming next year. You got to get efficient. You got to start performing. Um, let's see, what's another one? Utah, very interesting one. So there was a real $60 million cut to universities in Utah. However, there's ways for them to actually get those dollars back. And just from my reading, essentially what I understand is they're trying to incentivize their universities to create particular degree paths, as an example. So, hey, we want more business majors, engineering majors, etc., that at least we believe as a state are going to have a larger impact on the economy. And so we're going to take dollars away to help force your hand to focus on these areas so that if you want those dollars back, make these investments in how you're going to grow your campus, and you can get those dollars back. I'm sure it's a little more complicated than that, but that's kind of the gist of it. Some other interesting ones, Wisconsin, another fight, where I believe, again, just this morning, and I have the little details I'll pull up on the side. I think it got resolved, but there was a lot of the state Republicans that were suggesting an $87 million cut to the universities of Wisconsin when a lot of them are already running at a deficit. And I believe if I just look this back up, the actual results of this, where the UW Board of Regents were proposing, I believe, $885 million. They did not go with that. However, what they did go with was a $256 million increase over the next 2 years, which is the largest funding increase for the UW system in about 2 decades. So really interesting, I think, holistically to see the support for higher ed is continuing at the state levels. There's just undeniable a lot of support. It matters to states. It impacts your future economy. However, there are definitely key signals, I would say, through many, many states of how are you becoming more efficient? How are you matriculating students? What are you doing to be smarter and have an impact to our state itself? So, really interesting dichotomy. US higher ed will continue, and we still have, I guess, now four more states that are in a continuing resolution. So, we'll see where those shake out. So, quick update on this new fiscal year for higher ed. This has been another Bow Tie Tuesday. I'll catch you next week.